Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Women Who Drink Coffee with Jesus. I am Odalis.
And I am Yai.
And we are so happy to be back and recording this new topic that's called
God is your priority.
Exactly.
And as you can tell, this episode is going to be in English,
Yes.
which is a little bit different for us now. I remember we started off in English and then we slowly transitioned into being fully Spanish, but we're going to do a little break.
Yes.
Give our brains a break, because this entire time we've been translating everything in our minds.
Yes, and it's doing double the work right now.
So we decided, you know what, let's just do an episode in English. It's
Yes.
been enough time.
Yes.
And this week we just kind of want to talk about what it's like having God be your priority.
Yes.
And why the Bible states, that God should be number one in your mind, in your heart, in your life, because there's a lot of benefits that come with that, aside from just having that very strong connection with the Lord.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing this this episode a little bit different compared to the other previous ones that we had, just in case if you haven't seen the video, the new episode that came out. Please go ahead and view that one. It was more of a style of conversation, which is what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be having a conversation of putting God first in our lives, and for Him to be directing and guiding us through our daily life, and not just giving Him the extras.
Yeah, or not just putting Him on the back burner, which is something that I feel like we tend to typically do, but we're going to get a little bit more into.
Exactly.
So, without further ado,
let's begin. Let's begin.
So, God bless you, Odalis.
God bless you, Yai. Oh my goodness.
It's nice to speak to you in English.
Oh,
on camera.
In our dialect.
In our dialect. So,
my second language, by the way. But it's turned into more like my first language.
No, literally. My brain thinks in English.
I know.
So going into the theme for today.
Yes.
What does having God be your number one priority mean to you?
Having God be my number one priority means is when to be the center of your life, center of everything that you do. Like, everything that you do must be like according to Him. And I'm saying again. but yeah, like, everything that you do is to have Him first in your life, for Him to guide you towards your plan, even though obviously we all know that His plans are greater than ours.
I love you saying that, because I think part of having God as your priority is understanding that His plans are better and His plans come first. And I feel like a lot of times we tend to neglect that.
Yes.
We tend to say, we decide what we want to do rather than letting God decide.
Yeah. And what we see for ourselves, or our plans for ourselves, are so low compared to what He has in store for us.
Exactly. And I think a lot of this issue about, not having God as a priority is an issue, first of all, in our society, in our generation. I feel like we've become a society that's very focused on ourselves and very self-centered. We value independence.
Yeah.
And, independence is good in a way.
Yes.
Not depending on man.
Yes.
But we've slowly transitioned that into not depending on God.
Or anyone.
Which is so contradictory, because our life is dependent on God. God Himself decides when we'll be alive, when we'll die.
Exactly.
And we just as a society, we don't comprehend that. So I feel like we've really strayed away, and we've honestly become a godless society in a way.
Yeah. You do see that a lot, especially nowadays, like you were saying. It's like you're only relying on yourself, on your own strengths, when you should be relying on His. He's the one that gave you, once again, He gave you life, He gave you your job, He gave you the place that you're at this moment. And it's we tend to forget.
Exactly.
We tend to forget His greatness, His goodness, and everything He's done. And we stray away from His path instead of remaining in it.
Exactly. And I feel like when you do stray from that, and you stop having God as your priority and you start placing other things in as a priority, I feel like it just leads you down a road of like disappointment because you find yourself not being fulfilled, you find yourself being betrayed. Like I feel like a lot of times when you place your priorities in a person, like
they
that
tend
person
to let you down.
They're gonna disappoint you.
Exactly.
Or if you place your priorities in an object or in maybe like a situation, for example, let's say your career.
Yeah.
You know, down the line you might find yourself unfulfilled.
It's like that verse that says, I'm saying in Spanish, no pongas tu mirada en el hombre, sino en Dios. Because like you were saying, they fail you. And what is it that one goes to church that instead of putting their sight on God, they're putting their sight on the pastor or whoever is preaching, and that person fails. Oh, I don't believe in Jesus anymore. I don't believe in God anymore.
Yeah, and I think that mindset comes from, you know, not having your priority or your center be Jesus.
Exactly.
Because when Jesus is your center, like you're able to discern a lot of things. You know, like people do make mistakes, but when Jesus is your center, you know that the word itself, like whatever Jesus spoke is true. It doesn't matter who's speaking it. Obviously like testimony does matter.
Yes.
But when Jesus is your center, you have like this newfound level of maturity that you're able to just implement into your life.
So much happiness as well. And like, it's crazy because like I was hearing, there's this one song that I really love, and within that song she talks about, it's in Spanish, one, Rompe el Techo, and she's talking about the fact that she's tried and looked out in the world to see if something would fulfill her, but nothing would fulfill her, only Jesus fulfilled her. And it's crazy because like you don't understand that until you actually feel it, until you feel the fullness of him, his love, his greatness, his peace, patience, or you know, all the fruits of the spirit.
And you know, obviously these are all just benefits of having Jesus as your priority, but having Jesus as your priority isn't some like emotional thing where you're just like, Jesus is number one. No, it's yes, the sentiment, but it's the actions behind the sentiment. So having Jesus as your priority is a behavior or a pattern of behaviors that you need to implement into your life. So that's like just genuinely constantly seeking the Lord. Like you can't say like Jesus is my priority, but your actions show otherwise. Your actions have him on the back burner. You're not seeking, you're not praying, you're not worshiping. You're literally just following Jesus by word but not by action, which is like part of what the Bible says is like, don't just be listeners, like also be doers, or also action on that word. And having the priority, like you need to act behind it. Yeah,
and it's also like following his word, following his commandments, the word he says.
Exactly.
And it's crazy because a lot of people, when they go through difficult times, they tend to rely on people and not on God. And God is their last priority and last person to seek for.
Exactly.
Unless, you know, I am a doer of that. I have to work on, you know, relying on God, putting him first when in everything. In everything, you know, everything in my daily life, you know, obviously not just seeking him when I'm going through a difficult time, no, but in reality it's having him as a center, focusing on him, focusing on how I'm going to grow.
Exactly. And yeah, I think that a lot of times like we find ourselves very comfortable, so we don't think about growth. And having God as your priority, you understand that in order to have that priority, in order to have that relationship, growth is necessary. Because like if you think about it, like think in a relationship, like we've all seen the movies or stuff when like they're on a brink of like separation or something. So the partner that's obviously not been fulfilling their duties, they have to up their game. They have to change. They have to grow. They have to show these actions, whether it's like buying their partner flowers, buying their partner chocolates, just to show, you know, like, hey, I'm here, I'm willing. And that's kind of what's expected of us. And something that we always talk about here in the podcast is a relationship is a two-way street.
Exactly.
So, you know, Jesus is already there. Jesus has already expressed his love towards us. So now it's up to us. So whether those flowers that you're bringing to your partner, that's your prayer. That's the amount of times that you're praying. The chocolates that you're bringing, how much time are you spent actually reading the word? How active are you in the gospel? You know, like how much effort, how much mindfulness are you putting into it? Because same with like your partner. You know, like, how are you going to get your partner roses when they like tulips? Or how are you going to get your partner dark chocolate when they like white chocolate? Like, you have to be, like, attentive. So you have to be attentive to Jesus and what he needs from you. Because he will let you know what he needs from you. And I feel like a lot of times what we were saying is, like, we're very self-centered. Or we don't want to hear what's expected of us. We think that we can just show up, stay the way that we are, and that's perfect. But that's not the case.
No. It's like what we were saying, it's we always say it, we will always remain saying it. It's like you have to put in, once again, your effort. You have to put in that 50%. They have to reciprocate. So if, I agree.
We're just, I think, like I said, like, Jesus is already there. He already expressed his feelings for you. It's just
he died on the cross.
He died on the cross. Like,
literally.
That's the ultimate, sacrifice out of love. But like I said, like, he's already there. He's already willing. It's just a matter of, like, you making that a priority and meeting him there as well.
His needs, meeting his, well, not his needs,
but what he requires of you.
Yes. So making the change.
Exactly. Just making that conscious effort of honestly just seeking him and building a stronger relationship with him. So I think that, placing God as a priority, it has to be a very mindful action. It's not unintentional. It's very intentional.
Well, how are you going to want to grow your relationship with him if you don't seek him? If you only seek him once, like a couple minutes, or when you have time. Oh, I'm tired. I can't right now. Okay. So what if God told you the same thing? Oh, I'm tired. I can't. I can't
listen to your prayers.
Exactly. I can't be there. I'm going to close my ear because you're closing your ear to me.
And he never does that.
No, he's constantly there. And it's like, it's amazing of how much love he has for us, that he's constantly by our side, but we're the ones that tend to run away from him. Or we tend to stray away from him. And all we have to do is just allow him to become the center of our life, to become the person to guide us into what he wants for us, not what we want for ourselves.
Yeah. And like, my question is, like, how many times when we're going to make a decision do we actually pray about it? And how many times do we actually wait for a response? Because a lot of times we don't wait for responses. We just jump into things, and we think, we think that God answered it, but it's like, did he really?
Yeah. It's like, what is it? Like, for example, I'm getting a new job, and this job offers me better pay, etc., these benefits and everything full time, what I was seeking, but in reality it's gonna pull you away from going to church.
Exactly.
It's pulling you away from him. So is that really beneficial? It's beneficial for you, but it's not beneficial for your relationship with God.
Exactly. So I think that a lot of times we don't really see how our daily actions affect our priorities, and our actions are a reflection of our priorities.
Yeah.
If you're placing your job over, going to church, it just kind of shows where your priorities stand.
Making
money over, having a relationship with God. And a lot of times, like, we always talk about this, and it always comes down to, like, our root issue is that we always say, God knows my heart. And God does know your heart, but God also sees your actions.
Exactly.
So yes, you want this job, and you're saying God knows your heart, but then your actions are showing, I want this more than I need to, like, have a relationship with Jesus. So it kind of just reflects on what your priorities are. And now, like, my question for you is, I'm like, what is the question?
A little blank right there.
The question's there. I'm just like, how do I word this?
How do I make this sound formal? Just kidding.
What are some ways in your life that you show Jesus or you show God that, like, he is your priority?
My priority? I mean, obviously, yesterday, I could have gone to church. I could have gone to church, you know, even if I was tired and everything. But I mean, honestly, I just couldn't go do it. But my priorities where I show, you know, that he's my priority was like seeking him daily, seeking him like at work, you know, remembering to pray for my food, because I was a slacker of that, praying for, you know, blessing my food, and constantly, you know, going to church, not missing a day.
Consistency.
Exactly. And just seeking him daily. And it's something that I'm still growing as a person, you know. I need it's a constant move, you know. I'm constantly growing and remaining in him. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of, you know, having him as a priority is understanding that we have to remain in him. Like part of placing Jesus as your priority is also having him be your safe space.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, you know, yes, there's action, but there also needs to be rest within him.
Yeah.
Within him. So it's, yes, like I'm seeking him, but also in times of struggle, I know that I can just go to him and rest in him.
And that's one thing that I tend to try to focus on a lot more, because in the past I used to run to people when I needed help. And I've talked about it before.
Not having him as a priority.
Exactly. And that's one thing that I'm fixing in myself, that I'm trying to constantly, you know, remember, hey, go to Jesus first.
Exactly.
The people, yeah, they can give you advice and everything. They're going to help you out, you know, but he's the one that's going to bring you comfort. He's the one that's going to guide you to that solution. And that's what I am trying to continue to work on.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just coming to the conviction that he's the only one that can fix your problems. Exactly. And he's the only one that's like truly a listener. You know, God can place those people that are good listeners, but they really can't do anything for you. Only he can.
Exactly.
And yeah, I mean,
same question goes to you.
Like, what are some ways I act? Okay, yes. So I think some ways that I place him as a priority, or some ways that I demonstrate him as my priority. You know, it's just, like we said, constantly seeking him, you know, having that time of prayer. I think that it's impossible to have Jesus as your priority if you don't give him prayer. Yeah. Because it's, like, once again, we're going back to that relationship analogy. You can't be in a relationship if you're not communicating. Yeah. So prayer is your time of communication.
Well, yeah, imagine you're in a relationship, you don't communicate.
Exactly.
Like, how are you gonna learn?
You're not in a relationship.
Exactly. You're just there to a statue?
Yeah, pretty much. So I think that's why, like, prayer is so essential. Is because in a relationship you need communication, and prayer is that time of communication, or that method of communication with the Lord, where, you know, like, you're talking to him and he will reveal things to you. So prayer is definitely essential. I would say reading the word is essential to having a relationship with him, because a lot of times, you know, we find ourselves being like, God, like, tell me this, tell me that, and like you open the Bible and it's right there. Yeah. So it's like a lot of our answers.
What do I do? And then
your answers are in the Bible. Yeah. So I think that reading the word is essential. Yeah. And, you know, it's something that you have to grow to love. Yeah. I feel like a lot of people don't like reading the Bible. And I honestly, like, I used to be one of those people that I'd, like, read it, and as soon as, like, I open the Bible, I'd be out. Like, I'd be, like, passed out.
I don't know why that would happen to me. Like, I would, like, open the Bible, and then I was like,
I think it literally comes from, like, lack of relationship with God. Like, being 100% honest.
Sleep.
Yeah, but honestly, I feel like once you truly have a relationship with God, like, you genuinely become interested in the Word, and you're like, what do you have to tell me? Like, what do you have to say? What do you want to show me? So I think when you truly fall in love with God and you place him as a priority, the way that you read the Bible changes. Yeah. So it's no longer like a chore, but it's something that you want to do because you want to learn more.
Exactly.
So those two things are incredibly essential for me. And then I think the third would just be to always just have, like, an open and willing heart for him, because a lot of times, like, we're always very open, but when he tries to, like, push us out of our comfort zone, we block that out. And I think that part of having God as your priority is like having an open, willing heart, letting him push you out of those comfort zones because he wants growth for you and he wants you to, you know, go up in levels. Because like you said earlier, like sometimes his plans are better all his plans are better, and our plans are so small compared to his. So when you have
he's never gonna want anything bad for you.
Exactly.
It's always for improvement. It's always for, once again, for growth and for your relationship and your spirituality to grow as well.
Exactly. So so just like, you know, having an open and willing heart is really, really, really important because he sees beyond what you can see. And those are just things that I've like tried to implement into my life. And part of it is also like learning. There's times to say no, but there's also times to say yes. And I think for me, learning how to say yes was harder than learning how to say no. Because, you know, I was very like in my comfort zone where I'm like, I'm happy here. This is all I'm gonna do.
This is all that I can do. I can't do anything more than this.
But then there's times where it's like it's necessary that you say yes, and yes, it's like adding on a responsibility. It's adding on, you know, more things to do. But those actions are slowly preparing you for whatever God has planned. So sometimes it's necessary that you say yes even when you want to say no, because that's preparing you for the future.
He's like, no, you're not staying there. I need you over here.
Exactly.
No, over here too.
And you know, like I've heard of testimonies where people are used to like serving in one area in church,
and that's it, and not taking me anywhere else.
And then like God comes and it's like, no, like you've been like there's no wrong area to serve, but there's areas that are more suited to your abilities. So you know, like I heard this testimony of this one lady who used to be a teacher in church. But when she prayed, it was like fire, you know, was coming down. And God was like, no, like
you don't belong.
Like yes, you've been serving me in teaching, but you don't belong there. You're gonna belong in prayer team. So it's things like that where imagine if you box yourself off and you're saying no, like this is where I'm serving and by like I'm not.
But it's
I'm
just
not
like
hearing.
it's just gonna be clashing with you know what you're born and meant to do.
Exactly. So if you don't say yes to, you know, certain changes, certain growth opportunities, you're going to be stuck in the same spot. However, God has something better for you. So when they moved her to prayer team, like this lady was like on fire, you know? So I think that that's part of having that like open heart and open mind to the Lord.
And I would say like don't take it in a bad way. Like if God's like, oh no, you don't, you know, you've done that. Don't take it that way. If he moves you to another ministry, take it as like a way of improvement, a way of growth, a way of doing what you're meant and supposed to do. Like don't let your emotions take control of that.
And I think that when you have God as a priority, that becomes clear to you because you start entering this mindset when God is like your number one, that you're like todo me obra para bien, everything works for good. So you stop leaving like those honestly tantrums behind, and you start realizing like there's a bigger plan here. So having God as a priority, it leads, we talked about it, it leads to like more maturity. It leads to a clearer mindset where you understand, you know, things are working in my favor, things are working for my own good. Yes, I'm uncomfortable now, but in the long run it's going to be a blessing.
Like I know where I'm going, I know what he's doing in my life. I know that once again I know that I have my purpose is starting, or my you know, my path, my mission is beginning.
But I think that honestly having God as a priority is essential. It's key. It's the it's the basics or the foundation of having a solid relationship with God.
Exactly.
Because you can't have a relationship with someone if you're constantly putting them like number two. And honestly, sometimes like in society or even in our own lives, like Jesus isn't even number two. Like he's like top, like bottom 5. No,
not even
in the top
it's
5.
Like below 20s.
Or
it's not even like a necessity.
Exactly. So I think that we need to really come back to our center, and that's kind of what I've noticed sometimes is when I've been out in other countries, or you know, like in Guatemala, and their culture within like Christianity is a lot different.
Yeah.
So here, like in the States, like we're very like rushing. We're very like, you know, like Sunday service and that's it.
Yeah.
Over there,
and going
like,
back to be the same person that you were when
exactly.
before you
Versus
entered.
in like other countries or other places that I've been at, it's like Jesus is really the foundation or the basis of their whole culture.
Yeah.
It's you know, like everything revolves around God. Everything revolves around what we can do to God. And sometimes like I've seen people
Mm-hmm.
who complain. They're like, oh, but like Monday this, Tuesday that, because like there's activities every day.
Yeah.
But it's like all these activities are literally for your own growth, for your own benefit. And yeah, you know, like it's okay to take a break here and now.
Yeah.
But like there's people that genuinely complain about having like more than one service a week. And I'm like, you really think that one service a week and you don't even pray in between services, like that's enough for you? So
like little mingueros.
Yeah, so it's to me it's just kind of like where is like that Jesus culture? Where is that priority that you're placing on him? Because when
where's your hunger?
Where's your hunger? So I feel like that's just really
and I'm with you on that. Like I've seen the hunger, especially in the youth culture, in the youth, you know, community. I've seen that in other areas, but never here, I would say, here in California. Maybe there are some, you know, where you see that hunger that they seek the youth seek God. You know, they make him a priority. They go to not just like Bible school. They go to all the youth events. They go to everything, you know, they're so in love and immersed into that. And I don't know if it might have to do with also the parents or just because they see like, you know, their friends or anything like that. I'm not too sure. But I was able to see that, and it's so beautiful that you want that for, you know, your youth community where in the area that you are at.
Mm-hmm.
And you wish to see that. And yeah.
I think that there's no bigger blessing than honestly having God be your priority since you're young, or since you're youth, because like from there, like you can go so much. There can be so much more growth.
Yeah.
So I think that honestly, just challenging ourselves to really reflect on the areas where God isn't a priority. You know, or what factors in our life don't let us keep God as a priority. You know, is it finances? Like as soon as you see like your finances going down, you're like, well, I need to go to work, and I don't care if I don't
miss church or if I don't go to this and that.
Exactly. Or is it, you know, the people that you're surrounding yourselves with? Like, are they taking more of a priority than your relationship with God? So it's like all these little things that we really need to reflect on, and just make any changes necessary so that God can be your priority.
Yeah. And that's a question for you guys as well. Like, what are some areas in your life where, like how Yaya was saying, where God isn't a priority, or where you place him towards the end? And that's one thing that I have to also, I'm going to be reflecting on that on myself to see what is it that I need to do to improve and include, you know, Jesus in that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's just that's the weekly challenge. Is just, you know, reflect on ourselves, see what changes we can make, and honestly act on them. Because
you will definitely see the improvement and your growth in your relationship with God. And, you know, we have to meet him halfway. We have to put in our effort as well.
Exactly.
And if you're not, then it's, what are you doing?
You're just killing time.
Yeah. You're just like...
You're pretty much just killing time.
Yeah.
Or you're just like...
You're not going to grow. You're not going to be able to see, you know, that ministry, you know, come to life, you know? Or how would I say it? It's
the
like,
purpose.
Exactly. Then you will see like, oh, other people. Then you start, you know, getting jealous to the fact that, oh my gosh, they're starting, but they just started church, but it's because they're in constant, you know, communication. They're constant.
Like God became their priority.
Exactly.
They're acting behind it.
Exactly.
They're putting in that conscious effort all the time. So obviously, you know, God, that relationship is stronger than your relationship that only happens on Sundays in church.
Yeah. How is it that you wish for something, but you don't act on it? You don't grow in that.
Exactly.
So how do you want to reach that? How do you want to reach in becoming a prophet and becoming how we were talking about in our previous episode? How is it that you want to reach becoming a prophet, becoming a pastor, becoming a teacher and all that, but if you don't work on that, if you don't take that, if you don't work on the relationship, work on your growth, work on your spirituality growth, work on your faith. If you don't do anything, then you're just going to remain the same.
Amen.
You're just going to be a listener and not a doer.
Amen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add or.
No, the only thing that came up to my mind was Christ is my firm foundation. That's my favorite song.
I'm like, I can't sing right now. But yeah, so, to end, just remember that weekly challenge is,
yes.
Reflect.
Mm-hmm.
Reflect on your life, on your priorities, what changes can be made.
Mm-hmm.
We will be doing that. We have been doing that during this episode. Honestly,
Yes.
It's just kind of thinking, where are we lacking?
Yes.
What are our weak areas that we can strengthen? Because, you have weaknesses, but those weaknesses can be strengthened.
Yeah, and write it down as well. Like, you don't necessarily, just have to try to remember, but, try writing it down. Or if you start seeing something throughout the week, oh, this is, something that I have to improve on, then start doing it. Start acting on that and improving that, and being able to create, or how would I say it, being able to have Christ as your priority.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. But
Yes.
we just wanted to thank you guys for tuning in for one more episode
Of Women Who Drink Coffee with Jesus.
We didn't bring coffee today.
No, sorry,
Sorry, guys.
guys. We're lacking. We've been lacking our caffeine.
That's where we've been lacking.
Yes. Jesus. Our coffee with Jesus.
I'm pretty sure God is like, you know what? It's good that you guys are drinking coffee.
No caffeine for you guys.
But thank you guys so much for tuning in for one more episode.
Yes.
Like we always say, we will see you next Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
For the next week's episode. So thank you guys, and
Bye.